This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. I got that voice. I hope you all also got it. So yesterday we have discussed about query object model, and then we have seen what is a query object model, what is a query run, what is a query, what is query build field list, what is query build range. We will see how to use them today. Okay. And depending on the time, if the time permits, we will see XPV queries, but I don't think so. We will discuss AOD queries, and depending on the time, we will see the remaining stuff. I think today is Thursday. Okay. So on Saturday, we will be discussing table methods. Okay, it got open. Now let me go to Solution Explorer. Now you can see up to now we have discussed on select statements, tables, and all this stuff. We know how to use them. Now let me create a new item, and that new item is the queries using graphical user interface. Queries using graphical user interface. Okay, so here first of all, I want to create very simple query. I want to create a query only with one data source, AMA address. I want to create only with one data source. Let's see how to create with one data source. Okay, now this is my address data source. Here you can see if I go to the properties of a query, in this you will find whatever we used in select statements. Literals, I told you if you are forcing the literals, you can do that. Force literals, force placeholders, you can do that. Okay, in your query you will add the data sources, whatever the data sources you have added. If you want to execute in the same order, then you can use force placeholders. Whatever the ranges that you are writing, if you want them to be executed without modifications in the SQL DB, you can do that. Okay, for that we have this. And again, here you can see hello check. Okay, to check the data cross company, we have a keyword called cross company. If you want to allow the cross company in this query, you can do that. You can allow cross company. And query type, whether it is a join type or whether it is a union type. Okay, so what is a join and what is a union? We have seen when you are working with a set. Okay, it is similar. Okay, and frankly speaking, 99% of the times you will use join, only 1% you will use union. Okay, if you want to combine the data between both the tables and you want to fetch all the records, then you will use union, and in all the other cases you will use joins. Okay, now here searchable, whether you want to allow it to search. And there should be one more thing called sysquery here. One second. Form, this is very interesting property. You know what is this sysquery form? Because in case of select statements, whatever we have added, the query is fixed. Whereas in case of AOT query, that is not the case. The user will be able to customize the query. So to do that, we have a form called sysquery form. Okay, we will see that within a minute how it will work. So now the next step is add a data source to a query. This is the first way. You can add a data source, and then you will have the table. You can set the table name, or you can use the view as well here if you have the view. The second way is, let's see whether it works or not. I will go to Solution Explorer. I have the tables. I have the address table. I will simply drag and drop to this one. This is the second way. You can create the queries in these two forms. Now if I expand the data source, you can see fields. Oh, there is no fields here. Why? Let me go to the properties of the data source. Now can you see here? First fast, first only, enabled. Can you see this? This allow add is again an interesting property. Okay, what this will do is it will allow the users to personalize the fields. If the user wants to add more number of fields on this form, then if you need to allow him, then you need to set this allow add to yes. And if you want to use this query for updation, in case of select statements, we have used for update. Whereas in this case, we have a update property, and then we need to set it to yes. And the concurrency model, this is again an interesting property here. Okay, even this concurrency we have in select statement as well. Okay, there are two different types of locks. One is called pessimistic lock, and the second one is called optimistic lock. Okay, pessimistic lock. What is pessimistic? Now let's say you have some long running operation And during that long running operation, you want to lock the whole table. All the time during the operation, you want to lock the table. That means you're holding a lock on a table for a longer time. Instead of simply locking the table while updating or inserting the data or deleting the data, you will lock the table a whole longer time, because you have a requirement wherein you have multiple tables to be manipulated. And if in any one of the table, if the transaction is failed, or there is a business logic which is failed, then you don't want to insert in all those tables. Then you will use pessimistic lock. Okay, because a few of the times developers used to ask me, so optimistic is the best way, because I used to say all the time optimistic will have the best performance, because you're locking the table or you're locking the row in the table only at that particular instance of time. Whereas coming to the pessimistic, you are going to lock the table a whole longer time. So I used to say optimistic will have the best performance. Then developers used to ask me a question, yeah, then why we have pessimistic? Why we have pessimistic? Because in few scenarios, we need to execute a business logic. We need to execute a business logic while doing the insertions and updations in a multiple tables. Okay, and if there is any failure, then automatically there should be no operation, no operation should take place in all these tables. So what we will do, we will use the pessimistic lock at that particular point in time. Okay, so this is how it is going to work. By default, if you set it to auto, it will be optimistic. Okay, if you want to use pessimistic, you need to explicitly set it to pessimistic. And if you want to execute this to a specific company, if you want to fetch the data from a specific company, you can use the data property, which is a company, and you can fetch that. And this is one more interesting property, because currently you can't see any fields now. Now let me do this. Let me select this and let me set it to yes. And then let me save this. Can you see this? I got all the fields. But what I suggest is to use the field list. How to get the field list? There are two ways again. One way is, first of all, select dynamic to yes. If there are 10 or 12 fields now, you can do this. Let's say if there are 200 fields, you can't do that. If there are 200 fields, what will happen here? Obviously you will end up you need to delete lot of fields. So what you need to do, if there are less number of fields, you can use this dynamic. Whereas if there are more number of fields, you need to right click on the new button, and then select the field, and you need to use the table and then field property, and you need to update it. This is another way of adding fields to a query data source. Now I want to delete what are the fields that I'm not going to use. Partition, rec id, rec version. Do I use this? No. So delete it simply. Done. That's it. We are done with creating a query. Now let's say we have created a query. Now we know in the select statement we have a where clause. How to implement that where clause in a AOT query? You can see a range here. You can click on the new range, and whatever you can do is you can set the field. I will call the field as city, and you can have the value here. I will say value as Hyderabad. So what does it mean? Oh, now again we will have a confusion if I ask you. So simply take your cursor to this query. Oh, sorry, 1 second. One second. Actually, somewhere if I take this cursor now, it will show the query. Okay, no, it's not showing. Don't know why. Okay, because if you take this one to the query now, it should show the query. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm trying to get that. Okay, in Dynamics 365 as well, similar to AX 2012. If you take it to a query position, it should show, but it is not showing. Don't know why it is not showing. Okay, now see here. Now we have created a simple query which is AMA address. Good, we are done with this. Now what is the next step? We need to use this query. Okay, how to do that? Now you can see there is group by, having, order by, everything is there. We will see those things in a minute of time. Okay, now what I will do is I will right click and then click on the add button, new item. I want to use code. Okay, I want to execute this query and then I want to show you. So I will create a runnable class. I will call this as Amazon AOT queries add. Okay, now it will create a new runnable class for us. So we will see how to execute this simple query in our code, because even if you have the query, unless and until you apply to the form, you can't do anything. But we don't know how to create a form, so I want to apply this query to a job. Okay, now here we know the query object model. In query object model, at the top level we have the query run and a query. What is a query? If you want to get the query, if you want to create a query, then you need to use the query. So I will create query object, and then I will use, I'm using Q, but you should not use like this. You need to say address query. You might ask me why you are using QRI at the as a suffix. To differentiate between the table buffer and the query buffer, I'm using this one. Okay, and here you need to use new query, and inside the bracket you can see it is expecting any type. That means you can add data source, you can add query as a data source, you can add table as a data source, you can add view as a data source. Okay, so wherever you have the possibility of fetching the data, you can use all those things as the data source. You can use query as a data source, you can use table as a data source, you can use view as a data source. Wherever there is a possibility of fetching the data, you can use all those things as the data sources here. So I will write query str, and in the bracket, what is my query name? AMA address. This is my query name. We got it. Good. The second step would be create a variable for query run, and I will say address data equal to, or if you want to call, you can also call it as, because instead of this, what people will do is they will use QR and then they will say address. Here as well they will use, instead of calling address QR by, you can also call, you can use Q and then you can say address, query address, query run address. This is how they will indicate. This is one more convention. Yeah, the naming convention is again up to us. Okay, it is only used for defining the meaningful names. Okay, to make it more understandable. Got it? To make it more understandable. Now whatever we need to do is we need to use Q address. We have the query address, and we need to run this. How to do that? New query run, and in the bracket you can use query address. Query address. Okay, and I told you that there is a form where the users can customize. Okay, now what I will do is I will use the if condition qr address dot, we have a method called prompt. So what is the purpose of this prompt method? This is used to display sys query form. This is used to display sys query form where you can add the filters. Okay, now to loop through this, while qr dot next. Okay, so what this will do, depending on the number of records, it will always switch the next record. It will always switch the next record. Here I will create AMA address. This is my table buffer equal to qr dot. We have the get method, and then we have get envo. See here, if you want to use get envo, you need to remember the data source number. Let's say you are adding 10 data sources. You need to use get envo of 1, get envo of 2, get envo of 3. If you can remember the numbers of that particular data sources, then you can use qr.getInvo. But I am not so intelligent to remember all those things. Okay, because Frank, if you want to see here, loaded times I observed the people remembering the newspaper. Okay, you will get the news, there will be a big news, and they will remember everything. Okay, so neurons are limited here. Okay, to remember the data in our brain, it will use neurons. Neurons are limited. So what we need to do is we need to prioritize. We need to prioritize what we should remember and what we should not. Okay, because in this AX 2012, I saw the people. Okay, in my batch itself. Okay, I think this is my 30th or 31st batch might be. So in all the batches, okay, the students used to ask me, sir, I want to learn functional, because if I know technical and functional, then I will have a more demand in the society. So I want to become functional as well. I used to simply say one
Basically,
thing: if you work for,
techno-functional.
yeah, if you work for 4 years in Dynamics X, then you will automatically become techno functional. Okay, because if you want to work as a technical guy, learning a lot of functional is not needed. Because I saw the people who learned finance, who learned trade and logistics, and then came back to technical. You know what they they used to say me? They used to simply say me, I don't remember. Okay, because our brain has the limited capacity. It's not unlimited. Each and every time you remember the new thing, you're losing one old thing. Okay, each and every time you're you're learning something new, you're missing something old. Okay, your brain will prioritize. Okay, it's just like a stack. This is similar. Okay, what it will do is last in first out. Okay, last in, sorry, first in last out it should be. Okay, so what it will happen is, how it will work is, whatever the new things that you will learn, you will have something very old which is not necessary. So it will place that neuron aside, and then it will create a new memory. So this is how it works. So whatever you need to do is, you should not remember all these things. Whenever you need something, you need to go to MSDN and you need to check that and you need to write the code. That is how it works. You need to remember the concept. You should remember the concept. You should remember, or you should be train your brain to create the business logic. Okay, not to buttify the things. It's very bad scenario. Okay, because even in the interviews, I found I will get the people with BTech with 90% or 95% or so. Okay, and you know how they will be. Their English will be like anything. Yeah, it's very good. But if you ask for writing a simple program for creating a multiplication table, they will take 1 hour and then they will say, I can't do that. This is what happens. Okay, so you should learn how to create the logic. You should not learn how to buttify the things. Okay, yeah. Now you can see here, get and go. As I told you, it's like buttifying the things. You need to remember the numbers, or you need to go and check the number of the data source, and then you need to place it here. And it is a wrong thing to do. Okay, now you will there will be one more question. Then why we have get and go? Most of the times, if you have 1 or 2 tables in a query, it will be useful to use get and go. You can use get and go, and then you can write 1 2. Whereas if there are some 20 or 30 tables, then we need to use get. In this get, we can pass table ID. Okay, you can pass table name, and then you know what are the data sources inside a query. So you can simply use am address. This is how it works. Now what this will do? QRaddress.get will retrieve only one record. It will retrieve only one record. For the next record, it will go back to QRaddress.next, and if there is a record, it will come inside the loop. Again, it will check for the record, come back, check for the record, come back, check for the record, come back, like this. Okay, this is how the loop will run. Now I will write info and then a string format, and then I will say state hyphen percentile 1 comma city hyphen percentile 2 comma address dot state comma address dot city. Done. We are done. Okay, this is a simple AOT query with one data source. Now let me do one thing. I want to check, because this will be interesting again. I will set this, where is this again? I am AOT queries. I will set this as a startup object, and I will run, because I would like to know how it is executing the queries in the SQL. We will see that. Let it run.
In the properties list, there is one property derived table.
What is the property name?
Derived table.
Yes.
So
Just wait
what
for a
is
second. You will
the
see that. We will see that. Okay. Because I will add multiple tables and then I will show you.
I have a doubt here.
Please go ahead.
When we are saying new query equals to query str, then passing, this is a table buffer here, or table name, or this is the query here.
This is just a table name. Oh, sorry,
This
query
is
name. We have created the query MA address. That is a query name. I have used
okay.
query str. Okay. If I need to
Okay.
get the table, I need to use table str.
Okay.
Just a slight confusion as I have defined both of them with the same names. I would have defined it MA address query. Yeah. Here this is query and this is table buffer. That is one more best practice. Okay. Whenever you are
How
trying
it
to create a
will,
query now,
how it will differentiate? Okay, because of query str, it will take it the query.
exactly, it will differentiate, but actually you need to use some convention, address query or something like that. Okay. Otherwise, the same confusion will happen. One second, let me check what it is doing. Okay, it's still running. Okay, now it has hit the breakpoint. Let's wait for a second for locals. Because whenever you are working with the AOT query, and I will say few of the times you will find issues. The query is not getting the right data. Then there is only one way to check. Yeah, you need to run it from the job, and then you can do that. There is one more way wherein you can use the SQL profiler, but there are few issues. It will change the queries. Okay. Now you can see query address. I got the select statement. Is that right? Now let me copy this, copy value, and let me open the notepad, or I think we have the one more. Let me open that one note. Pasting there would be easier. Okay. And let me add one more page. Let me paste it here. It says select city, country, district, state, street, zip code. Field list. Why we got the field list? We have used dynamic to no. If you set dynamic to yes, you will get select star from address table where city. From where we got this? This is the range. This is how we create a simple AOT query. Okay. Now let me press F10. This is your query run, and it took the query to run. And now cure.prompt. It will display a form here. Let's wait for a second. It should show it. I'm waiting for it to load. Okay. This is called sysquery form. Now in this 6 query form, by default you can see one filter, AMA address, address, city, Hyderabad. This is the ranges. And let's say someone told me about the order by and group by. I have the sorting here. I will click on the add button. I have the table. I will select the field which is city, okay, or district. I will select field district as the sorting order. Here you can select either ascending or descending. Okay. Now if you want to do this using select statements, can you do this? No, because select statements is not support you with this one. You need to build again your own framework. Okay. And let's say if you want to add one more table for joins, here I have AMA address. This is my AMA address table. I have the add table join. What I will do is I will add a table join. You can see here, it is allowing me here. It is allowing me. And then it is asking which table you want to add, because these are the support you tables you have. Join mode is 1 to n, and you have the customers table. If you want to select this, you can select this. Join mode is 1 to n, you have the AMA vendors table. Join mode is n to 1, you have country region table. We have used country region ID, address country region EDT. From there I'm getting this. Similarly, if you want to use not exist, you can do that. Okay. Now if you want to show the details, you can select show details. It will show what are the table relation and what is the relation data source. Now if I want to add this, I can select this and it will get added. Can you do this using select statements and you can give it to the user? No, this is not possible. Okay. And here I have the OK button. Now I will select OK button. In my query, how many things I have? I have only one data source. Now let me go and check what did I get. I got exist join from customers where address.record equal to address. Okay, if you want this kind of things, okay, if the end user wants to modify their own tables, okay, they can personalize the things. When they are opening the form, they can personalize the query and they can modify in this fashion. If it is a AOT query, if it is a AOC query, whereas with while select, you can't do all these things. Which is why we have AOT query in place. Which is why we have AOT query in place. If you are giving the AOT query, a form with AOT query to the customer, he can customize that query. He can get whatever the fields he need. He can get whatever the data he need. He can customize. He can define the sorting order. He can define his own ranges. He can do all those things using the AOT query, which is why we have AOT queries in place. Okay. This is about a AOT query and how to apply the join using the prompt. We have applied using the prompt screen. Okay, we have applied using the prompt screen. Okay, unfortunately, it did not get any information with Hyderabad, so it did not retrieve it. Otherwise, it will show the informative dialog. Okay, so this is one thing. Good. And remember, this prompt I am not going to discuss further because you know what is the use of prompt and how to use it. So I will comment this out. Okay. Going further, we will discuss the remaining stuff. I will comment this code. And then I will paste it over here. I will remove this prompt. And then okay, I'll keep these two lines. Let me save this. Okay. Now that we know how to create a simple AOT query and then get the data from it. Now what we will do is we will make it some complex. Okay. Click on the add new item. I will go to data model. Here you can see a query again. I will call this as Amazon customer sale line. Okay. I want to join three tables here: the customers table, the sales table, and the sales line table. Click on the add button. Okay. Now here I want to add my first data source. The first data source is customers. Done. I will go to properties and then I have the customers. I will set it to yes. Okay. I am not setting it to no or now. I am simply setting it to yes. Please remember. I am simply setting it to yes because you know what is the purpose of dynamic fields. Okay. I am not defining any ranges. I have the data sources inside the customers. Now I will take sales table to the data source. Okay, and I will expand this. I will go to properties again back to back. I will set dynamic fields to yes. And here, for the first data source, you can't see all the properties, but for the second data source, I got few more. One is join mode. Whether you want to apply inner join, outer join, exist join, not exist join. I am applying inner join. Whether you want to use the relations. If you want to use the relations between both the tables, you can set it to yes. If you set it to yes, it will take the relations automatically. There is no need of defining anything in the relations node. Okay. Now I am adding one more data source to it, the sales line. Okay. Now let me go to the properties. Let me set dynamic fields to yes. I am using the same inner join. Use relations, I am setting it to no. If you want to define a new relation, you need to create a new relation here. And you have the join data source. And here you need to select the sales table. And you need to select the relation name if you want. Or you can see the field, customer ID. No, it should be sales ID. And related field, you need to select sales ID. If you don't want to use the relation. If you want to use the relation name, you can use relation name. And if you want to add the derived table here, currently there is nothing because there is no derived table for this one. Okay. Whereas if you want to add the derived table, you can go and add the derived table, and you can use the derived table for the information here and here. Okay. If you don't want to use the derived table in the join, you can set it up here. If you want to use it along with the join, then you can use it here. Okay. Now let me go to the sales line. You can see all the properties are same. And let me do one thing. Let me expand the fields. You can see for all the fields we have it good. This is good. Now what I am doing, I am applying the inner join between these three. Okay. Now I want to simply run this and I want to get the data. Okay. I don't want to do more things here. Okay. I will go to this AOC queries. Here what I need to do, I need to update this to AMA cost sales line. You need to use AMA cost sale line. Done. Now here there is no address. So this is, you need to call query cost sales line and then query run cost sales line. Okay. And you can use query cost sales line dot next. Here I will use AMA customers equal to, you can use query cost sales line dot get table name AMA customers. Here I am getting the customer details. And similarly, you want to get the sales details. Let's assume you can copy this, paste it down. You can call this as AMA sales table buffer equal to get AMA sales table. And similarly, if you want to get the sales line, you need to use AMA sales line equal to AMA sales line. Okay. And then you can call customer ID %1 name %2 comma sales ID %3 comma line ID %4, and then you can use customers dot customer ID comma customers dot name, comma, sales table dot sales ID, comma, sales line dot line ID. Okay, and similarly, if you want to get the amounts, you can get it. Okay. Oh, good. It's throwing the error. Okay, done. Now let me execute this and check. Okay, what it is doing, I want to check the relations, I want to check the joins, how it is working. I want to see that. It will be interesting. Okay, let's wait for a minute. Let it load.
This get method is returning a table.
It will return common. Okay, it will return common. So common is like object for table. Okay, what is object? All the classes are derived from object. Similarly, all the tables are derived from common. Okay, so now we are saying that return the table buffer in the common. Which table buffer? If it is address, address table buffer. If it is customers, customers table buffer. If it is sales table, sales table buffer. If it is sales line buffer. Got it?
Sorry, Kumar, can you repeat how common is playing a role here? I just
Okay, let me show
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
If I view the code of the sales line, what did it do? Extends common. Okay. Now, if I take the customers table, view code, AMA customers extends common. Okay. So this is a framework. In table framework, at the top level, we have a common as the table buffer. Okay. So whatever the table you are creating, the table will be derived from that common table buffer only.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
as this is a framework, even in the query as well, it is a framework which should return a common value for all the tables. Is that right? Query is also a framework. Using the query, you can use address table, you can use customer table, you can use sales table, you can use sales line, you can use project management table, whatever it is, you can use it. Okay. So what it should do? It should return something common value for all of them. That is the common table buffer. So if you are returning the using the address table in a query, it will return address table in the common. If you are using the sales table, then it will return sales table. Okay, remember that.
Yep, clear. Thank you.
Okay, now you can see here, I am pressing F10. I want to check the query first of all. This is my query. Let me copy the value here and let me go to the OneNote. Let me paste. What did it do? Select star from. Why star from? Dynamic fields is set to yes. Customers join star from. Dynamic fields is set to yes. Sales table on customer ID equal to customer ID and 1 equal to sales purchase type. Okay, 1 equal to sales purchase type. Okay, if you don't want this one, then you need to define your own relation. I have set use relations to true, which is why I got this 1. It will get whatever is in the relation. Join star from sales line, sales ID equal to sales ID. This is the relation that I have defined. This is how we are going to work with multiple tables. Now let me press F10. Now it will go inside. You will get the customers, you will get the sales table, we will get the sales line. It will print the data. Okay. Now similarly, if you run this, it will print data for everything. Okay, you can see the line ID is different for all of them. This is how we will work with the queries with joins. Okay, now you will get it out. Okay, this is good. You have used inner join. Now let's say if I want to use exist join, how to do that? Okay, Now if I go to this cost sales line, if I open this, in the data sources you can see the customers, in the data sources you can see the sales table and then sales line. Now if you go to the data source properties, you can see join mode. Here if you set outer join, it will take outer join, left outer join. If you keep exist join, it will take exist join. If you keep no exist join, it will use not exist join. Okay, you can give a try for the remaining joins. Okay, they are similar, whatever we have discussed in the select statements, these are similar. Okay, you can give a try for these three types of joins and you can check whether it is working as expected or not. We have created the same thing in the select statements. I want you to do the same thing in AOD queries here. Okay, now let's say I want to apply a group by and I want to get the aggregate. How to do that? I want to get the sum of line amount. Yeah, then simply remove this dynamic fields and you can set it to unselected. Sorry, no, you need to set it to no and remove all these fields. Whatever you see here, select delete button, right click on the fields, click on the new button. You can see average to calculate the average of the field, sum to calculate the sum of values of all the fields, sorry, that particular field, sum of values in the row of that particular field, count to get the count of records, minimum to get the minimum value of that particular field, max to get the maximum value of that particular field. I am using sum. Here you can see the field again. Okay, I will use the field again as the line amount. Okay, I am using sum of line amount. Now if I need to use the aggregate function, I need to define group by. So what I will do is I will create a new group by field. Here you can see the data source. I will select the data source, which is a sales line, and I will use the field here and I will call that field as sales ID. And I have the relation intact, which is good. And then if you want to use order by, you can set the order by. By default, if you are using the group by, the data will get ordered by that sales ID itself. Okay, and if you want to use the order by, you can simply create a new field and you can apply that in the order by. Okay, whatever the field you want, let's say it is a sales ID, you can apply for sales ID. Okay, you can do that in the order by, to order by in the ascending or descending order. One interesting candidate in AOT queries is the having filter. Okay, one interesting candidate in the AOT queries is having filter. Okay, first of all, I want to do one thing. For this sales table, I want to set use relations to no, and then I want to create my own relation. I will use the join data source with customers, and I will use the field, the customer ID, and I will set the related field to customer ID. Done. Okay. Now, in this having filter, what you can do is you can apply the new having and you can select the data source. I will call the data source as sales line, and then you will have the field here, line amount. Here you can select the aggregate function, sum, and here you can mention the value. I will say greater than 3000. Okay, so what this will do is it will create a query now. Select star from customer table, join star from sales table, join sum of line amount from sales line, where the conditions, the sales ID equal to sales ID and customer ID equal to customer ID, and then having sum of line amount greater than 3000. Okay, if you want to work on the where clause, on the aggregate functions, if you want to work with aggregate functions, and if you want to fetch the data, specific data, then we will go with having filter. Then we will go with having filter. When we will use having filter, when we have the requirement where we want to get the information on the basis of aggregations. Okay, for example, let's say you have a requirement wherein you want to get the data, of top 10 spends You want to get the data of top 10 spends. Okay, and top 10 spends, they will define the amount greater than 50,000. Okay, instead of getting the whole lot of data, you can use having filter and you can get the data. Okay, having filter will work with aggregations, and then I will say total amount hyphen percentile 2. I will remove all this here. If you want to get this customer ID name and everything, you need to add them in group by. Otherwise, you will not get those values. Even adding them is also not useful. Okay, because it will not fetch the data of those tables now, because we are not using them. So I will use only sales line. That should be enough for me. Okay, and you might ask me, if you are using sales line, why you have joined this? So what you can do is, in this group by, you can also add a new field. You can go to properties, you can add the data source, customers, and in the fields you can select name. If you want to get the name of the customer, this is also possible. Okay, this is also possible. You can do this. And here, if you want, you can make it AMA customers, and then you can call it as customers, and you can say AMA customers here. Here you can get name hyphen percentile 3 comma, and here you can put the comma. You can use customers dot name. Okay, save. Now, oh, there is no sales table. We need to use sales line here. Run. Let's see how does it work now.
Hi Kumar, instead of
Yeah, go
using
ahead.
this AOT queries or table buffer or query buffer, can
Hmm.
we directly write our own query, like in we are writing in SQL Server?
That's what I explained yesterday. You can use while select, because it depends on requirement to requirement. Based on the requirement, we will decide whether to use while select or whether to use AOT query or whether to use XPP query.
Now, while select also is a structure of Dynamics.
Yes.
Can we write our own query in simple way that we are using in?
You mean to say you want to write a direct SQL query and then you want to execute in the AXDB?
Yes. Is it possible?
Yes. Yeah, it's possible. Okay, you can do that, but actually, there are two ways now. If you are executing on the server side, whatever the service account is there, it should have exclusive access to database. Then you can use the database connection and then you can write a query.
Okay.
But in AX 2012, that part is done in a few scenarios. But in Dynamics 365, nowhere we will have the requirement to do that, I can say, because almost we'll get everything with this queries itself.
Okay.
Because in the production, exclusive access to database will be not provided. Okay, because if they make system administrator, that will be enough. Whatever the data and everything we need, we will get it. And if you want to get the exclusive Azure database in Azure machines, it's nowhere possible, because production machines will be in control of Microsoft. Whereas if you want to do the same thing in an on-premises environment, you can do that, because you will have full control of the database over there.
So basically, Kumar, yes, you are telling something.
But that is not the recommended approach. This is what I'm saying.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Kumar, I wanted to know that in forms, so we will be only going with AOT queries, right?
In the form, you will write
Yeah.
AOT queries and you will write select statements as well, depending
Okay.
upon the requirement. Let's say you want to get the count of records. Let's say you want to get the sum of the value. Now, instead of writing everything on the class, and you can just fetch, if you're fetching only one record, one single value, then you will write in the form. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So that is nothing but basically we are finding when and how to use the query.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now please see here. Let me press F10 and let me check what is the query here. We'll copy the value. Now you can see how the query is applied. Select star from customers table, group by sales ID and name, join sales table on customer ID equal to customer ID, join sum of line amount from sales line, and then having sum of line amount greater than 3000. This is how the query will work. Okay, this is how we are going to use the having filter and the group by. Okay, now let me run this. I don't know if there is a data or not. Yeah, we have it. Now you can see the values here. Name Ramcharan, sales ID. Oh, sales ID we have print. What is this? Sales. Oh, sorry, yeah. Percentile 3 is given 2 times. That's why we got Ramcharan. Instead of that, if you use this percentile 1 now, then you will get that value. Okay, while modifying the value, I use it percentile 3 here as well. Okay, and then total amount is 5500. So this is how we are going to work with AOD queries, joins, and everything. Okay, now it's your time. Please let me know if you have any queries. If there are no queries, we will see XPP queries and that too tomorrow. I think today we are already out of time. Yeah. Any queries?
No, Kumar, we are good to go, but maybe we'll be having some doubts in the form.
Yeah, we will see that.
So
No worries.
yeah. So every time we are creating a form, so will we have to create a query? I mean, we'll go
No.
back.
It's not needed. You can use the
Okay.
tables directly. I will show you. When we go to the
Okay.
forms, I will show you. Don't worry. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a doubt. Can we use existing tables now, or is
We can
there
use
some
them.
property?
I will show you in one place how do you use the customizations. Okay. I will show you. You can use the existing tables as well. Okay.
If we want to use existing table, then this comes under customization.
Yes, you can use the query with existing tables. That's possible. I will show you how to do that here. How to use the existing tables and then how to use query extensions. I will show that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thanks all for the session. Let's meet again tomorrow, same time. Thank you all. Bye.